We're going to do some classic car rambling. I'm Mark. That's Motor City Car Culture. And I'm joined with Mike, Speed and
Speed and
Shine
shine.
TV.
Yeah.
And what we're going to talk about this time is about cars, but it also gets into some feelings and comfort zones. So we're going to get into things like that. So we're going to talk about comfort zones. And I think it's important to discuss. Now, I think we're good examples because we have our areas. We're both car guys. I don't think anybody would dispute that. And we have our areas. And there's like maybe a little overlap here and there, but we basically have different cars we're interested in. Now, myself, I'm comfortable like an early Ford show, like a T or an A or Porsche, German cars. Mike, what's your zone, your comfort zone?
I would say 50s through 80s muscle cars, that kind of stuff, right? That's where I feel I may know the most, which isn't much, and that's where my heart is and the cars I like.
Yeah, yeah. And so, really, what we see is there's some people that like that is it. It is got to be a 1969 Dodge Charger or a
Hmm.
1924 Model T. Like, and I see that with like Porsche 911s. Like, no, it's the 964. That was the epitome. Everything after that was terrible. And you get in these arguments, it's like down to not only the country it's from, the era, but down to that model year or that 4 or 5 years or those 2 years. And, they changed the taillights and it was garbage and they're terrible. So there's people like that. And I think there's some people like it's this car.
Right.
This car I have, nothing else on the planet. And that might be because it was their first car or it was their grandfather's car. There's some connection and they don't really care about the others. So, and I get that and it's okay. But I think it's helpful to look at other cars just to learn from them and to get away from your comfort zone.
It is. You're right. I mean, you see these guys who are T-bird guys, so they talk T-birds, they know T-birds, they do all that. And I'm Ford, but I drive Fords, have Fords, but I've owned all brands, and I, I've been to my share of all Ford shows. But you know what? I actually prefer to go to a car show that's a mix of everything, because after a while you get bored. Like I have a Mustang sitting over here. Um, I like Mustangs, but after 2 hours of walking around a car show with nothing but Mustangs, it gets a little boring. Mix a Camaro in there or something once in a while,
Right.
right?
And we got a viewer from Pakistan. So, hi.
Oh, welcome.
Um, well,
Must
a
be the
good friend
middle
of
of the night
mine,
for them.
yeah. Oh, yeah. A good friend of mine, he's restored a lot of cars. He had a business kind of flipping cars, but he has a Corvette. And before
No.
that, he had a Goat. But he loves his Corvette. He's not selling everything. And he said, yeah, I went to a Corvette show, but it was just Corvettes.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's like, there's this Corvette and that Corvette. Yeah, it was okay. He wanted a little variety.
Sure.
And that's I think important. Like I will go, you talked about different shows like out at the Gilmore, Red Barn Spectacular
Yep.
is my favorite show because there's no rules. I think maybe by year, I don't know, but it's got everything.
Yeah, it really is. If you're in Michigan, it really is a beautiful event because we always talk about this. You got the museums to go through that day, which is included, and you are going to see every car from one of the first cars made to one of the last cars made. I mean, you're going to see a lot of variety.
Right. Now, my other second favorite show, I guess, is like the Model A show. I like that because it's just like all the Model A's and you see them. I like the German car shows because there's all those. I haven't been to air cooled. I got to get to one of those. So I like those slices, but my overall favorite is Red Barns because there's everything. I like car shows where you see everything and it
Mhm.
expands my knowledge.
Well, and now a good place for that, when you bring that up, I think of what's coming up, the Motor Muster at Henry Ford,
Yeah,
right? And that has a great variety, and
that's from like 32, 33 or something up till it's up into the 70s now.
and
Um,
and it's what and you get to sit in those grandstands, and they drive the car up, and they talk about the car, what year it is, how long they've owned it, what they've done to restoration. That's pretty entertaining, right? You can't get better than that.
well, it's learning, you were saying like, there's the T-Bird shows and there's learning every nut and bolt on a T-Bird. And I
Yeah.
applaud that. Fine. But I I like seeing quirky French cars. And you see that and it's like the shifter comes out of the dash and you're moving it around. That's makes you think that's a little different. Rear engine cars, that's
Yep.
different. There's the different ways people handled problems. The very early cars, the early electric cars, steam cars, those are interesting. It was a different way to do things. I I just like to be exposed to those things to learn. Now, my personal example involves you, Mike, is I never went to Autorama. Never. And Autorama's like a real top show here in Detroit, and
Yeah, it's
it's
it's the yeah.
customs and hot
Mhm.
rods. And I was like, I'm a purist. Like, you can add things for safety, but I don't care if you have seat belts or you put the master cylinder, or you do the two one instead of single. You can go. I'm fine with that. But massive customization of an old car just bothers me. So I
Mm,
never went, but you encouraged me to go to Autorama and I liked it and I actually went again this year
mhm,
because I saw the craftsmanship and what they put in there. It's not my thing. I wouldn't have it in my garage,
mm.
but I admire it because they put in time and did it. And the craftsmanship kind of made me think of cars in the 20s and 30s, the custom coach builders where you ordered the car and then they were
Yep.
like, what fabric would you like? What
Yeah.
color would you like? And, how would you like those seats to be? You designed it.
Yep.
And it's not quite the same, but to my mind, it was these people are like they re envisioned it and they chose the fabrics for the interior and the gauges and where they were. They made their own. And I appreciate that in the workmanship.
Yeah, I'm glad you keep coming back, and, you know, there are purists out there, and they only wanna see
Me.
cars restored perfectly. I like to see a car restored perfectly and it looks great, but I also see the customs in it. I like it that people make it their own vision, and then you got people like Dave Shutton and a few others that are just automotive artists, right? That can do whatever they want. There's just so many of them out there. Dave Kingdig, I think, will go down as a great automotive artist, in his designs and customization of cars because
and
he's seen something that's not there. Rick Dorr, that's another one, right?
and these to me go back to that history of the custom coach builders. When you go and see,
Yep,
the Rolls Royces, the Duesenbergs, you go to Auburn Court Duesenberg Museum, you see those Duesenbergs. You bought the engine and the hood and that, and then everything back there, someone went along and made that body and they
right,
made that interior to someone's taste.
right, right.
And Porsche, you can do that. There's the Besonderes Wünschen thing where you can have special wishes and I want this interior and I want leather everywhere. That makes it unique and makes it your own. And in the end, it's all about love of the car.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, my experience is probably the Concours d'Elegance. in Detroit, and someday I'm going to be able to go to Pebble Beach and some of these others.
Yes.
Although those pre-war cars and brass cars are not my thing, I
That's
do
me,
like
not
you.
you.
I appreciate them and what went into them, and I tell you, if I could own a Delahaye, I would. I've
Yeah.
seen some Delahaye's out there that I just like. To me, that is just a perfect, beautiful car, right? The way the lines and what went into them, and they look like they're moving when they're sitting. So I've come to appreciate some of that. I would say this, I would like on our bucket list, me and my wife's list is a Model T. We would like to own a Model T, and that's easy enough. There's plenty of them out there. But other than
Yeah.
that, there's not a whole lot of pre-war cars I'm that fired up about.
But that's okay. You don't have to have it in your garage, but you'll look at them.
Yeah,
You'll look at them, you'll appreciate them, you understand them. I think looking at another car like that kind of maybe makes you appreciate your own, or you see something different on it. Um, you look at a Porsche and you see that the ignition is on the left. Well,
right.
why? Well, there's a story. Or the Saab is down between the seats. Why do you put the key in there? There's a story. And it really goes into what a Saab is. And so seeing these different things in cars make you appreciate those and make you appreciate your own.
Yeah. You know,
I, yeah,
you say Saab, and I have to say this. When I was in auto parts for 24 years, when anybody called and they needed parts for a Saab, they were always hard to get and expensive. So we called them, sorry, that sounds like a Saab story.
story.
You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, as a former Saab owner, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Everything was more than it should be, right?
No, it's European cars. I also own Porsches, so Saab parts were not that bad. No,
Okay.
they're always expensive.
Mhm.
So, it's appreciating it. To me, it's all about getting cars you like, seeing them, seeing the differences. I like seeing, sometimes you see like cars from 1973 all together, and you see
Right.
the Ford and you see the Chevy and you see the Chrysler, and you're like, they approached selling a car in 1973 in different ways.
For sure.
You see a Mustang and a Camaro and a Firebird and an AMX, and same era, but they had a different approach, and they might appeal to one person, not to another, but they were valid competitive cars at the time. And I learned more about it. I've it was funny because I'm a Model A guy. When I see a Chevy, like this past weekend in Rochester, I saw a 1930 Chevrolet, and I'm like, let's check out the competition and let's look at that. It has a six-cylinder. The Model A had a four. It had, I think, 50 horsepower. The Model A had 40. So the Chevy had a bigger engine, more power, but basically a lot of it looked pretty much the same. The gauges were a little different, but the packaging, most of it seemed the same.
That
So
would be
it's,
neat. I've been to the Big Cat. We filmed some episodes
yeah,
there, and I've seen a lot of Fords. It would be really interesting to go somewhere where I could see the exact year car, a Chevy, a Ford, and a Dodge from that era to compare all of the different pieces and designs to, because I'm sure they're completely different.
right, right. And that's what I find. And then, um, right, how did they do it? How did they build those cars? Why did AMC have these sixes and later on they put in some V8s? But why they approached the car that way, how they did things.
Right. And
Even
why
the
did they
difference
make
between a Mercury and a Ford is
right?
interesting to me.
And why would they make
Chrysler's,
one door? They made one door wider than the other on an AMC, right? Why would you do that?
just covered that this weekend, the Pacer. And the owner said they heard from someone who worked at AMC, and they have this whole story about it makes it easier for the passenger to get in the back, but they said actually they screwed up. It was a mistake, and they made up the story to cover for it.
Boy, look at some of
Because
these cars that these people have here. Wow, 70 Chevelle,
yeah,
1,000 horsepower, and keeping America. He's got a bunch of Corvettes. Oh, what a lucky man. Now, let me ask you this, and I don't mean this in a bad way, keep America too strong. Do you wear jorts? Because there's all those jokes about people with Corvettes wearing jorts. I don't think it's fair. I don't see that when I'm at shows, but mm.
no,
um,
that's a nice collection.
hey,
Um,
I couldn't imagine having a 64 Corvette of my own. I couldn't imagine. I saw one this weekend at a car
mhm,
show a guy just bought, and I helped him clean it. You saw that blue one? Oh my
yes.
gosh, what a beautiful car. But
I mean, just that console and the radio and the side. Again, that's the differences that you get to see. Um, so
so hey, we were talk about this car guy or that car guy. What also I was thinking about today at lunch about this conversation is overheard some guys saying that a certain person wasn't a car guy because he went and purchased his muscle car, Resto Mod, from a dealer. He cleans it. He takes care of it. He doesn't
car
necessarily
guy,
fix it himself, but they don't think he's a car guy because of that. And
no.
some car guys do a bunch of work to their car like I do and body work and whatever it takes, and some don't. But I don't think that they should be discounted.
No, I don't think so.
What's the audience think that's listening? Do you think just because a person just buys the car and pays the mechanic to take care of it, a muscle car or something, are they a car guy or not a car guy?
Or you see the ones that you mentioned, like the Concours, they go, and I had one time the owner, it was the first time the owner had seen the car. He bought it through some auction, and then for like a year or so, they were doing restoration, hadn't seen it, hadn't touched it, and saw someone drive it up there, to for judging. And it's like, but you know what? They own it, they have it, they're showing it. Car
They
guy.
love it.
Oh, and by saying guy, we don't exclude women because for
Car
some reason
people.
we just say car guy. But
Yeah, yeah, that's
it's
true.
that thing. So I think that's wrong. I do appreciate the people who do their own work. I think believe in it because you get to really understand the car and know it. Um, but if someone doesn't and they still have the car and they drive it and they love it, that's fine with me.
Yeah. Z06, too complicated. Yeah, you got to be an electrician or an engineer, I think, to properly work on a
More modern
2019
cars,
Z06. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
get a
I mean,
Model T, you just get
that's
some
right.
simple wrenches, you're set.
And you can make your own gas if you had to, right?
Yeah, yeah. Model Ts, Model A's, simple hand tools.
Now, what was
Um,
the Dodge? What would be the Dodge equivalent at that time?
well, it was just the Dodge brothers, and they were making because they kind of well, they were making all the bodies and all parts, so they decided to make their own. Now
Hmm,
they had a Dodge. I don't remember the numbers. There's like a model, but it was just that they were Dodges
hmm.
through the 20s and into the 30s. I Well, see, that's the thing is then, that's where, okay, I should probably learn more. I always think to know more about cars of an era, I have to know more about the other cars and the competitor cars.
True.
And I just always want to learn more. And while I have my area of comfort, I like to get out of my comfort zone. And I think that's what we're saying is Mike kind of dragged me off to Autorama, and I'm glad he
That's right.
did.
Yep.
And I'm kind of pulling you towards the earlier, like we went to the early Ford V8 museum,
Yep.
and it's starting to see like, okay, these other cars are interesting.
They are, and there's always something to learn, right? I still know about brass cars. I mean, you look at them, you're just you know, when I see a brass car, I think of my grandma who always, for some reason, every year as a kid, had brass car calendars, which made no sense to me. Nothing in their house, or they weren't car people. I mean, they had cars to get around, but I never to this day, I wish she was alive because I wanted to ask her, why did you have brass car calendars every year?
Um, I think at the era, it was going back to the past, and that was a very easy indicator of like the 1910 era. And so that was nostalgia. Just like you might
Well,
feel nostalgia with 50s or 60s cars,
yeah, right.
it was
Well, there is
nostalgia, and a
one
car is
car.
an easy way to signify that.
There is one car from that period, but it's not a real car that I would own in an instant if I can. And you know what I'm going to say, right? Chitty Chitty
Say it.
Bang Bang. Right. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I would certainly have a replica of that if I could. And I know that's not a real car. It's several cars put together, but
Okay, sure. I'll allow it. I won't like it, but I'll allow it.
I saw that in January at the Barrett Jackson auction, and I had to stand there and just look at that. I filmed it. They wouldn't let me get in it. I mean, I don't know. It was very nostalgic to see it. And I know it's not the real one, but
But it's that connection and that feeling.
yeah,
And that's what it's all about, is that connection that you have with whatever it is you love. And
yeah,
if it's only a 64 and a half Mustang, okay, but maybe look at a 66. Maybe look at a Falcon because they share some parts. Maybe look at some other cars.
it's like the Pack or when we were at the Packard,
Yeah.
was it the Detroit Falcon Club was there?
Yes.
So think of what their conversations are as a club. Everything's about the Ford Falcon. A few years of a Falcon. It seems like after a while they would be very knowledgeable to help each other and stuff, but that would get boring after a while, I would think.
There's always something to learn, but yeah,
But you come from a Porsche club, so you guys. Here's what you know. If I saw a bunch of Porsche guys standing over there talking at a car show and I walked by, I would probably snicker to myself a little bit. So
fair enough. No, but at least with Porsche, there's just all different models. And there's some people who believe the 356s, like there's actually t-shirts you can get, and they're in German, but they say Porsche made cars after the 356, but it doesn't matter.
oh
Like
yeah,
that was it.
yeah, yeah.
But
Mm.
they'll still show up, they'll still look at yours, it's fine. Um, Purists, snobs, I can fall into that. I'm a purist, I'm a snob, but I will go and look at other stuff.
He's leaving. Thanks for joining
Yes.
us.
Thank you.
Refill of bourbon. That I'm drinking coffee, but bourbon doesn't sound bad either.
Yeah, well, I can always catch us on the replay, what you missed.
That's right.
So, yeah,
So we've talked about car guys or that car guy. We
yeah,
talked about, are you a car guy if you don't fix your car? We say yeah. And the other one that falls into that, built, not bought. And people are really down on people. Well, here again, it's the same thing. If you don't have the knowledge or the know-how and you don't feel comfortable messing a car up, just because you bought a muscle car from somebody and you have somebody take care of it, again, why do you got to call somebody out?
yeah.
Or is that just to make themselves feel superior because
Well,
I
that's like,
built my car, right?
to me, it's like singer-songwriters. If a singer has someone else write the song, but then they sing it, is that not as good as somebody who wrote the song and sang it? So we should only have singer-songwriters?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And
I
so
guess you can draw that comparison.
Well, I just did. But I don't think I think I give greater respect to someone who did the build themselves, but that doesn't take
Yeah.
away from someone who bought it.
Yeah, and when we were doing the TV show, I would interview somebody and said, "How long did it take to restore it?" And they said, "Well, I bought it this way." It just changed my questioning, right? So, "What do
You
you like about this? What color?" And sometimes we
why
didn't.
this car? Right, you change it
Right.
to why this car. And that gets me to the topic when I see these massively customized cars, they made it for that one person.
Yeah,
And I look at it and go, that's not for me. Rarely do I see customized cars that I'm like, that's done to my taste. I like it. You're really putting yourself. And so, how many times have you seen the ad? $70,000 into it. I'm selling it for 20.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you 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 do it for your love. You are never going to get anywhere near that money back because rarely, if you restore a car, you with the right car, you can get the money back sometimes.
sure, sure.
But if you customize a car, unless you're Chip Foose, I mean, you're not.
Well, here's an example for you. At this year's, Riddler Award, the Corvette. So the outside of that Corvette was orange, the wheels were right, and it had that blood red interior. And I believe that was built for the owner. He wanted that blood red. That's how I'm going to describe it. Now, when I looked at it, I thought that car was the winner, right? I mean, I even put a post out, here's the winner. Mind you, Dave Kingdig won with his Corvette the last year. But as the day went on after I posted that and I looked at it and I stood back and I listened for a very long time on Friday, maybe an hour of people walking by, no one like that color of interior. Not a single. They all loved every aspect of that car except that. And I think the judges felt the same way, and I think that's why it didn't win. Um, but it was built to what that owner wanted. It's his car. He paid probably the $500,000 or whatever it took to build it, and he's going to enjoy it when he gets off the circuit, and that's okay. But I think it was for me. It was a little bit of a thought process if you're going to build something for Riddler, you might not
That's
want to
different from doing it for
building it for
yourself.
your, yeah, you might want
So
to
if you're
rethink
trying
some of
to
those choices.
customize for a market and
Yep.
what's you can sell, that's different than trying to customize just please. So if you're going to do that, you have to go into it thinking, I don't care. I don't care what the resale is. I'm doing this for me. Or are you trying to win an award?
Right, right. And some of those people, and that gentleman who built that car, he's won with other cars. So a lot of those builders have built multiple cars, and they're probably building one right now. I mean, they're probably always working
Well,
on one for the next time.
again, back to learning. I look at those cars and I see they re-envisioned an older car and they thought of a different way to do the seating. They thought of a
Right.
different way to do things. And it's more, what would this car be? It also is a good way for me to say, I like that color, it works. That color doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
I learn more about my taste by seeing things I like or don't like.
Yeah. And again, some of the pre-war cars or post-war cars even have some beautiful color schemes that I
Oh,
see
the
and I start
mid
thinking about
50s.
what would that look like on a modern or, a muscle car if we did a scheme like that, right? They did some unique things with paint back then. And, I think a
The
lot of times as a kid, you grow up, you think old cars weren't shiny, right? Because they were always dull. But when they were new, they were just as shiny as today,
I
cars
did
today.
well, like the mid 50s cars, I love because they're two tone on the outside and then the two-tone interior
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
matches. And I just did a video on a Marlin. Um, and it was two-tone and it just matched that interior exterior. Gorgeous.
Yeah, Marlins are really underappreciated. There's one on Facebook Marketplace. It's probably gone now. To me, I didn't see hardly anything wrong with it, and it was only 11.5. And I thought, that's,
Marlins.
any other, it's a deal. It's a deal.
See, and I'm not, I guess I like AMC because it's the underdog and it's
Yeah.
quirky, and I like quirky. Okay, I had a sob. I like quirky, I like odd. So something like that, and the Marlin just really stands out to me. Again, it's getting out there, but seeing them, and then you start to learn you might like something that you didn't think you would like otherwise.
Yeah. What's that show that they have in Detroit? And I've never made it over there. Orphan Cars, I think it is, or something.
Yeah, there
What?
used to be one in Ypsilanti, but that one ended. Um, I'll have to go out on our calendar because we share a calendar. I thought I put another orphan car up, but the Ypsilanti
We've
one was always a
registered that by
business.
trademark, so don't
Yeah,
steal our, yeah, we
don't steal
registered
it.
that. Is the Maverick considered, or how do you get an orphan car? Is it the
Oh no,
brand?
Maverick is so it has to be that car company no longer exists. So it's a
Okay,
Packard, it's an Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and usually
Mercury. Yeah, okay.
Mercury. Hmm. Yeah, so a Comet is an orphan car, but a Maverick isn't.
Well, that doesn't make
And
sense, but okay.
sometimes they say it has to be dead for like 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, a lot of times 10 years. They sometimes have rules like that. But basically, that car company no longer exists.
If GM was really thinking, Ford and Chrysler's been taken, and well, of course they got the Camaro, but I think a lot of people would love to own a Pontiac again.
Well, that's been in the news, changing topics,
Oh, sorry.
because
We're
they went out.
rambling.
Yeah, I know we
Sorry.
burned through a couple of podcasts, but that's okay. Because they like re-registered that trademark, but it's not to bring back the car. It's just because the trademark on the insignias and the merchandise, people
Oh,
still
there's
buy a
money in
lot
that.
of Pontiac merchandise, and that's what they're looking for. Where are we from? You're from Iraq. We're in Michigan.
Hey, is it changing? Is it giving you subtitles in real time? I wonder if it's giving them subtitles, or maybe they speak
Oh,
English. Yeah.
right. Oh, he does. So, um, I don't know where we. Oh, Pontiac. Yeah. So orphan cars. I'd say maybe make it a. You go to your club and you always hang out with your people, and that's fine. But this summer, go to something different. Go to a
Yeah.
brass era show. Go to the German car show. Go to the Swedish car show. Go to something else. When you go to your cars and coffee, go and look at some of the other cars.
Yeah. Don't
And
just go and run to the 57 Chevy, or the Impalas or the big Mopars and the Challengers. Look at the other things. And that's what, speaking of that, I'd like to see the people who, most car shows are judged by either the participants or the people who see it. But those car shows that I go to where judges pick stuff, I'd like to see judges start picking the unusual cars, right? It would be cool to do that. Now, um, the St. Louis Center, east of Jackson, before Ann Arbor, there, they used to put on a car show, and Top Hat John would select some awards, and he did a very good job of selecting cars that had a history or prominence that maybe not something anybody paid attention to. And when you give the award, he would explain why it is about this car and why he chose it. And it was really interesting. He was really good at that. Um,
right. That's to me the story of the car, the one where it's been in the family or passed down through the generations. Um, I love the story, and that gets back to I said Are you a fan of just cars in general? Are you a certain brand, a certain year, or is it just this car? And sometimes it's this car,
Sure.
and because of the story.
Yeah, Nash Metropolitan owners tend to be about the Nashes for sure, right?
Yeah.
I put them in the class with Subaru drivers. Nothing's wrong with Subaru, but
All
boy,
right.
you buy
I've had a Subaru.
but usually you buy a Subaru, you own Subarus for the rest of your life. That's just all there is to it. There is
uh,
no other car.
I would buy another. I don't. I replaced it with an Audi, but sure, because
Mm.
Um,
And the Swedish
the
cars, what you said Swedish cars, that would be a Volvo, a
yep,
Saab,
Volvo and Saab.
what else?
Yeah,
That's it? Oh, you made it
yeah,
sound like there
pretty
would be a bunch
much.
of them there. You I got excited thinking I was gonna go see a wide selection at a Swedish show, but it's just 2 cars that were always a pain to find parts for. So,
But they're so quirky and good and Scandinavian and weird, and they do it their way. It's the soul of the car. And
I guess.
that's
I
what
guess.
I like to do is I think cars have sort of a car soul, and I like to go out there and see them, and so and look for it. So if it's something like a Mopar show, I haven't done a full Mopar show, and I think it's time. Maybe that's my pledge that I should go to a
Well,
pure Mopar show.
I don't know how long we could handle it, but we should go to the Red Barns Mopar because they fill that full of nothing but Mopars. And we should really show Mopar some love and go there and do
Right.
that.
I did go to the Oldsmobile show last year. I have a conflict. I don't think I can go this year. And not, I never had Oldsmobile. I like Oldsmobiles, but that was kind of interesting seeing all Oldsmobiles, including a curved dash Olds they were giving rides in.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but Mopar, I do remember in the late 70s, in the dark, if someone had a Chrysler and they started up, I could tell it was a Chrysler because their starters sounded totally different from everybody
Oh,
else's.
that Zing or whatever, right?
Okay, you know what
The
I'm talking about. I'd be walking
I
along on Chrysler, and people go, "What?" I'm like, "It's a Chrysler," and we look
well,
and go,
yeah,
"Yep,
I
it's
owned a couple
Chrysler, Dodge,
Chryslers.
it's Mopar, it's they have different starters." So that's what I'd want to do is go to the Mopar show and go, "Do you got that starter? Let me hear it."
Yeah, when me and my wife were dating, I had a '75 Plymouth Duster that was an old lady's car, had 8,000 miles on it. It was absolutely perfect. There wasn't a flaw on it, and, we missed that car. Someday we wanna get that exact same car back, just to drive around in but yeah. Other
I
than that, I've never, like, saw a Mopar and I say, "Well, that's really nice," or whatever, but I've never, like, "I gotta have that car." So I don't
have a fondness for like the Imperials, the 50s Chrysler Imperial. Um, those are, and then the 57s and 58s when they took the whole styling and they moved it ahead a year. So some of those cars I like. Um, and then airflows. I like Chrysler airflows.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that. I'm 20 years old. What advice can you give me at this age? Eat as healthy as you can and stay
There.
that way. There is
Right.
no there is nothing better that you can give you because um I don't know about Mark, but I wish I would have ate healthy a long time ago and started because when you think about eating healthy, you save money because you go to the doctor less, you buy less clothes because you don't get bigger, and when you get older, your joints won't hurt and you'll be in better shape and you won't have clogged arteries, so you can never eat meat again. Yeah, eat better.
You that's actually good advice. My advice was look at a variety of cars. So both
Well,
both good advice.
I was trying to, I could have given him some car advice, like buy as many cars as you can and hoard
You
them.
you
But
you provided probably better life advice than I provide it, but that's
I
okay.
thought that's what he was looking for. I didn't think he was looking for car advice, but how many more cars do you need? One more than I got. That's
Right.
that's usually it, right?
Yeah. I was just reading before I came out here some posts from the Model T Club, and these people are all like, I've got four, I've got five. And I see that a lot with Model A's. And they're like, yeah, I'm just buying another one. And they have several of them. And another guy posted, and he had a
Mm.
Jaguar E-Type. He had like four different amazing cars from different eras. The T was just one of them. Or like you said, you'd be interested in picking up a T.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I would probably if I had a Model T, I know that I would drive it just like I do all my cars. I would drive it quite a bit and enjoy it and learn how to take care of it. And we probably would never get rid of it because if there's ever an apocalypse, we could
Model T
again
will
make our
go.
own. Model T is what you need. You can make your own fuel. You can do
It can go
it'd
on
be the thing.
50 octane. It can
Yeah,
burn, yeah,
moonshine if you got to, right?
yeah, anything.
Yeah, that's yeah. So, if I go Model T shopping, I know plenty of people. I'll take you, Ted Odell, and there's a
Oh,
few
yeah.
other people, and go Model T shopping.
Um, so I think we could probably wrap it up soon. Usually we go for half an hour. This time, we were talking.
And I
Um,
and look, I'm back in the hoodie again because Michigan can't
Me
make up
too.
its mind. Is it going to be summer? Is it going to be fall? What is it going to do? And I'm sitting outside the garage because with the leaves, I don't get a signal anymore in the garage. So I have to do these outside. So I'm sitting in the
Um,
door frame.
yes, yeah. And I'm sorry. Yeah, Arabic in one word. No, I don't know. Hopefully we can find a way to get subtitles, or maybe
Oh,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
do
One
the
word.
recording.
They want to know what we're talking about. Here, this is it. Okay. We don't need a word. We're talking about these cars, right? That's what we're talking about, cars. Doesn't every person have a model of the car they drive that they keep in their pocket or near them at all times?
Sure, it's
Sure.
not weird at all. It's fine. No, it comes with it. It's part of the love.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap it up, it comes down to, you could be a Mopar person, or you could be a vet person, or a car lover, that specializes in those. Having a specialization is a great thing. Have your comfort zone, but work to broaden and learn at the same time, sharing your knowledge and insights with others. Um, because maybe you are always going to the Falcon show or the Model Ts, and that's all you hang around with. You love it. And a good way to spread it is not hanging around the same people all the time. And still go to all those things. Those are great. I love doing that. But go to a different show and bring your car to a Cars and Coffee and talk to other people about it and tell them what is so special and what you were saying, Mike, about the stories. Tell them your stories about the car. And so go to a different Cars and Coffee this Saturday. Just show up with your car and talk to people about it. Go to a different show and learn about those cars. Broaden it, and I think you're going to find the hobby even better.
Yes. Yes.
So that's it for this episode. We're kind of on a sort of every other week schedule. It's difficult for us in the summer because we're very busy on the weekends and car shows, and sometimes during the week we've got things
Yeah.
going on. So, but we'll
For
try to
sure.
keep coming, and usually we post like a day or so ahead. Generally, it's Thursday nights, and you can always look at the recordings. So,
Yep.
thanks for joining us, and for those who came in late, catch us the beginning. Bye.
And stop doom scrolling and go wash your car, get some exercise.
Right.
Right. See ya.